Brian, what's up, man? Welcome in. Wish I could see how much user we got. Alright, a couple. We'll wait a few minutes and then get started with the show. Should be pretty fun. It's an experiment that I'm doing. The game lends itself so well, I think, to a concept like that. We could build one dungeon every week, we'll see. Could be a lot of fun. Guys, got special requests while we wait. That's a good test for the sound as well, huh? Yeah, it will be a dungeon for our game Dungeons of Atonement. Until Twitch registers our game, I have to put some game in the category, and I thought Diablo 1 was the closest thing to describe what we're doing here. So eventually, you're gonna see Dungeons of Atonement on Twitch. But yeah, we're gonna build a dungeon in Unity for our game. Gonna see the tile set system that we're using, the design process. Gonna use some of your ideas, and when the game releases, you'll be able to see that dungeon in the game. Here. Let's try not to destroy the guitar. Alright. 4 viewers is a nice little intimate group. We can go with that, gotta start somewhere, right? No, but I think I really like streaming. I quite enjoy it a lot. It takes me out of my bubble a little bit, and it's nice to interact with you folks. Ladies and gentlemen. Probably mostly gentlemen, I would assume. It's pretty cool. So you guys are doing well. Learning the ropes as I go too. Now I'm able to multi-stream on YouTube as well, so learning the process. Just recovering from a sickness that has been going around, but okay. Yeah, it's that time of the year. Huh? I haven't got the flu in a very long time, so I expect next time I get it, it's gonna be intense. think I haven't been sick in like 3 years. Maybe because I don't live in the city anymore. Or I stay inside too much. But winter is pretty intense over here. We have an average of minus 20 every night. So I'm keeping the fire stove well fed. And all the cars are plugged so they start in the morning. Otherwise, working on some interview. Well, good luck with that. Based in Quebec, yes, actually. I used to live in Quebec City. That's where Cradle Games is. And we moved out 3 years ago. And now I'm in a very small town called Saint-Raymond. Saint-Raymond. In the woods. So we purchased like a chalet, if you will. We love it. It's the winter is so pretty when there's trees everywhere, and so it made us enjoy winter a lot more than being in the city with all that brown slush around. It's all beautiful and green and white, and like a Christmas postcard. But yeah, I'm about 1 hour away from Quebec City. I go there from time to time, but to be honest, I don't miss it very much. That's amazing, thank you. It was a big move, to be sure, but I think it was the right one. A bit risky, moving out of the major poles where all the video game studios are, so it was a big guess. But my girlfriend was into it as well, as she loves it. We got chickens now in the backyard and a huge garden, so getting closer to real life, Yeah, 1 hour away. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But Quebec City is not a huge city either. 1 hour and you're already on a gravel road. But if I ever need to get to the city, then it's totally feasible. So that's what I think is our little project with Vox Prima. Thinking about opening a video game studio in a 10,000 people small town. If you've seen Field of Dream, I'm kind of feeling the same impression of if you build it, they will come. And it appears like it's kind of working, and we may have another dude joining our team in a week or so. I'll see. He's very excited by the project, and a guy with who I've been working for 20 years, ever since my early Ubisoft days. So, I mean, and he lives not far from here, so there's been kind of an exodus of people from the cities lately. So if they hear that there's a video game studio in the woods, and during your lunch break you can go out and fish on the river or something, I think that's pretty attractive. But yeah, it's scary for me too, given that you'd also be moving away from like Job Hub and career changing. Yeah. But it's those kind of move that you kind of feel it in your guts that we have to do something. We have to embrace those changes. I think, come whatever may if it works, we got plenty of skills. So if I have to do something else, I'll figure it out. But it would be great to be able to do what we love and what we're best at. So it seems to be promising so far. Hey, it's Connor from SkillCam. Hey, Connor, what's up, man? Thanks for hosting this. I have an announcement link up the Script Camp and Game Camp 2, so more mage on that. That's very cool, man. Thank you so much for doing that. Every little bit helps. Well, yeah, I can't wait to see more people. That's great. Started doing this like last week, so it's already a lot better than the first time I did it. Let me see. Supposed to see stuff in the chat on the screen. Check real quick. Oh, it's working. Okay, it's just disappearing a bit fast. I want to know what's being atoned for in this dungeon. Yeah, don't you, eh? How much can I say about that? It's a new process, and I'm still figuring out like how much spoiler should I give for this. I think at least few privileged people can be privy to a few more information about the game, So basically, you're playing an investigator monk that was summoned to the abbey to investigate on a few strange events that happened in this abbey located in eastern France. Maybe I can play a little video that we have right now that explains a bit about the setting. Let me see real quick. We'll be able to test as well if the audio for video is working, but I'm not too sure about that. Let's see. I don't know if the audio was working for that. I don't think so. You guys had to read all that. Well, yeah, kind of like that. Okay, the audio was working a little bit. Yeah, so that's how we thought about conveying narrative moment, kind of cutscene. So, um, you guys have an in-house artist? Yes, Senzi Uberchick is my girlfriend. She sits right next to me, and she does all the pixel art. Well, the beautiful one at least. I can do some, but it's nowhere near as pretty as what she does. But yeah, we've been together for 16 years now, I think. Met at Ubisoft back in the days playing Team Fortress 2. And we're still together making games, and we've been wanting to make pixel art games since forever, so it's really nice to finally have the opportunity to do it. Like, she's so talented. She's worked on big brands like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Star Wars, or Prince of Persia. So she was part of the Game Boy Advance team at Ubisoft Montreal. So that was really the good old days, man. I wish I was there. Yeah, so it's really cool now. She's going back into those roots, with all the new tools that now exist, makes the job much more easier. So it's a lot of fun. The process is that I make the basic, the placeholder visual, if you will, like what's the size roughly of the various objects. Test it, make sure it's fun, and once it's confirmed, then I send it over to her so she can apply the final graphics on those props. I love Prince of Persia 2003. That was a Christmas present in 6th grade, and I played it to death. Yeah, man, that was a classic for sure. It was so awesome, and really launched Ubisoft into that, what I consider its golden age, really. When I was hired at Ubisoft Quebec, they were just releasing the third one. I think it's the Two Prince. And I was fiddling around in the Ubisoft servers and opening up like the 3D scenes for the Prince, and was able to spin my camera around the Prince character, and I got goosebumps. Like, oh yeah, man, I'm somewhere special now. It was great years. And Splinter Cell, just the year before, played that through like 5 times as well. I mean, for sure, man. Chaos Theory was such a classic. I hope they're making a new one. I mean, there's no Metal Gear, no Splinter Cell, and we need some stealth going on. But if you like that, perhaps you would like Sniper Elite. That's where I get my feel of stealth action these days. It's an awesome game. Alright, so might as well get this thing started. So first, the process is, the way the game is built, basically I might start with that, is very similar to Diablo 1. So there's the big monastery at the top, and underneath there's a countless floors of handcrafted dungeons. So Yeah, Sniper Elite 5 is the best, man. We play it every Saturday with Dan, who is the programmer on the team. He comes over here every Saturday. And we have gaming night ever since we were 5 years old. So it's been a while. So cool. I thought the structure of the game was perfect for a experiment like this because each of the floor is a separated dungeon that stands on its own. So if we want to add some, shuffle them, and put them in order, whatever order that we want, that's feasible. So I say, why not? Make a stream idea to design dungeons with the community. I'm super curious to hear what kind of ideas you guys may come up with and what the design process could look like. Because yeah, that's how I like to do it. So there are infinite ways to level design, to make a concept for level design. So wherever you get your inspiration, basically. Sometimes it may come from a real place that you've witnessed during your life. Sometimes it's other games that you play through. Sometimes it's a core gameplay that you want to introduce. Sometimes it's based around characters. The way that works most of the time for me is to manage it like I would manage a musical partition. I'm a musician at heart, so I'm a very additive kind of guy. And whenever I design a game or a level design, I think of it in terms of musicality to some degree. So you can consider like every notes of music to be a part of the gameplay experience, whether it's an enemy or something that you collect or some piece of information that you throw to the player. Each of these are like notes that's being played. So, and what is cool with the musical theory, if I may try drawing, is that you kind of got your scale of emotion to some degree, that gives a very interesting control over what you want your players to feel. So you got the tempo, you say you got a beat of 130 beats per minute or so, and then you can fluctuate this along with the experience of the player, play some low notes, play some high notes. Maybe that doesn't make sense at all for you guys, but it's kind of an attempt to explain what's going on in my brain. So, and sometimes you want to play a lot of notes next to each other, make something really intense. Then after that, you're gonna keep some moment of silence to let the player digest. Because I think time is a major factor in the end. Like everything that you design, the space, the elements are gonna be experienced through time, basically. So you really gotta get a feel for your rhythm first. I think the sequence at which you want the player to experience stuff. So that's one way. But as I said, there's a lot of different ways. For every project it changes, but for this project here, since our resources was a bit limited, so we couldn't go with every floor is gonna have a new gameplay features like Nintendo does. Every level in a Mario game has a new gameplay features. That wasn't really an option for us. So, but in my heart, in the experience that I've had with games, as long as there's a dungeon and monsters to slay and loot to collect, I don't really need a lot more than that. I just want to explore, I want to collect, I want to find the secrets, I want to bash monsters, I want to do it again and escape when I'm too weak, get stronger, come back, and then own everything. So until we can create more puzzle ingredients, traps or push-pull objects around which a dungeon floor could be designed, at least I can think about, global shapes of a dungeon, just the shape, the monsters, the loot, those three ingredients, and think about the various layout that I can accomplish with that. And with just the shape of a layout of a dungeon, try to make something that's unique and different from each of those floors. So just with the shape, if we can achieve that already, we're kind of extracting more value from the simplest gameplay ingredient that we can. So I've put all of my dungeons on this timeline basically. Right now I've started with the number 25, we'll see if it's still the same at the end of the day. But and I gave myself a challenge to do one dungeon per day for a while. So all of these dungeons took a day to build. So you see, those are the dungeons that are in the demo right now. Those first three. So this one was more geared toward introducing the game. So there's a big section over here that's just like there's no monsters, just to introduce the player to the experience and set the mood and the atmosphere. Over here, you encounter your first locked door. It's a simple mechanic, but still has to be tutorialized. So you just have to go over here, get the key, come back, then you can open the door. Right here, I'm introducing an ambush, basically. So when you walk in the middle of the floor, monsters appears all around you, and it makes overall a big loop. The exit is right here, but if you continue, you open the door to come back to your initial point. And so these dungeons kind of came to life from a simple word, basically. That was a welcome one. This one is the 2-star because I thought it was kind of two major hub that define the dungeon. This one is the hub because there's a big central part, and you kind of have to figure out which door will lead you to the exit. You have a limited number of keys to unlock each of those doors. So most of them kind of loop into themselves like that, and there's one that brings you to the end of the dungeon, basically. How much downtime, shopping, navigation, menus, leveling, equipping, maintaining, or swapping item do you factor into your core loop? Any tips on making that part fun? I think you really have to take into account your target audience to some degree. Dude, the dude that's plowing my driveway just arrived, so I might have big spotlight in the back of my head for a few minutes. But yeah, considering that, because every type of player are different, but for action RPG, you've got an audience that is inclined to spend more time reading stats and reading the different score value for your items, so you can put a bit of strategy there. It has to do also, it has to be pertinent, so you have to be a sizable chunk of weapon and defense item and accessories to combine together to make it all pertinent, which is not something that we really have. So I wish I could extract more gameplay time on average from reading stats and equipping item. But as I said, it's quite personal. Personally, I don't like to spend a lot of time reading and checking stats. I know my girlfriend loves it. She checks all the numbers and really she remembers the numbers. I don't. I know it's stronger. Okay, cool. I will check like how many hits does it take to kill that type of enemy. She will remember, okay, it's 25 damage points per enemy. So it's really two ways to see it. But if I have to make prediction, I think it's gonna be like the 1/3 above in the abate, testing your stuff, buying equipment and so on, and maybe 2/3 of the experience gonna be inside the dungeon exploring. That's what I think. That's what I've experienced most of the time. So it's a sizable amount of time. I mean, 1/3 of your play time. But that's what puts the RPG in action RPG. And also, what we have in our game that is distinct from other ones is the investigation gameplay. So, talking to NPCs, dialogue options, and finding out clues, presenting clues. That's also another part of the gameplay loop where we think the player is going to spend quite a bit of time. It's a very complex question. think tips to make that fun. It has to do with experimentation as well. So I think it's great when the stats upgrade and changes. It's fine, you get bigger numbers and whatnot. But it's great when it actually affects your gameplay strategy to some degree. So if a move plays a bit differently because you equip something, or maybe it's a little faster, or it responds differently, and then you can start to really experiment with the way you adventure into the dungeon, as opposed to just increasing numbers. I think that makes a big difference too. Do monsters respawn if you leave the floor, or are the monsters finite? That's a question that we're asking ourselves a lot these days. By default, just by the way Unity is built, the monsters will all reappear every time we load the scene. So if you exit and come back, they will all come back. Is it gonna be like that in the final game? We'll have to see. One option is to do it like Dark Souls, like whenever you interact with the checkpoint. In our case, these are called altars. Yes, your life is replenished, but all the enemy respawn, so that's an option. Right now, we don't respawn the monsters, so we don't heal the character, so you have to deal with that rules. But later on the line, we may experience a bit more with the monster placement. It's tricky, yeah, because we really have to, how we say, choose our battle wisely, which features we want to put forward. And so we got that going on. We got another map which I've called Bridges and Island. Basically, it's based around bridges and island. So a lot of gaps, a lot of defended straight paths between little hub areas where you can choose to go in different directions. The dungeony dungeon, which is just like pure dungeon, didn't have really a big idea around it, but just chaining rooms together and thinking a bit more like a Diablo 1 type of dungeon, so very simple. The crevasse, this one is designed around the idea of having a big gap that fractures the map in two. So at the beginning of the game, you of that level, you choose whether you want to head east or west. So there's two main ways to explore that map. Teardrop, just with a basic shape idea. You start here and you right away you see your exit on the other side, but you have to complete all that path to finally get there. I've got the Evil Cathedral of Evil, so kind of a giant church that may be a little more important narrative wise. Yeah, you might find some cultists into that level and so on. So we can go ahead and brainstorm ideas like that. I don't know if all that makes sense to you. I'm exploring at the same time as you guys, but let's say what kind of dungeon you would like to do, and we can start from there if you guys want to shoot ideas. I have a few more. Is traversal a factor or not as much? How is the player getting around? Well, yeah, a big chunk of the game is based around exploration, so traversal is a big part of the factor. Initially, above all, because eventually what we're developing right now is the ability to teleport from a checkpoint back into the abbey, because we don't want the player to have to run all the way back to a staircase to be able to access the abbey and upgrade his stuff. So but you have to find it first. So at first exploration is a big factor. After that you can warp around a bit faster. But he's always on foot. There's no horse or anything like that. I did brainstorm a bit, a bunch of other dungeon shapes that we could create as well, that I kept into a backlog in my back pocket just in case. One dungeon that's more built like a prison, maybe inspired by Tower of Latria from Demon's Soul, if that reference rings a bell. A library, a boss rush, multiple arenas where you find. There can be a gauntlet style of dungeon as well. A dungeon that is designed around 2 stories, so you have to get to the second floor, get to the first floor. Catacombs, alchemical lab, cliffside. Maybe a dungeon is really based around being on the edge of a precipice all the while. The big mansion on the ground, an hourglass where there's a huge choke point in the middle between 2 bigger parts. My hell dive is over, so I can pay attention finally. Yeah, welcome. We were just getting started for real. I was talking way too much. Does the player have a light source, or can they light candles in the dungeon? Is it possible for enemies to shoot through half walls or windows? Yes to both of these questions. We have a lantern mechanic with burning candles. You can see that in the game HUD. Something that we've developed early in production. Right now the philosophy is kind of similar to a Darkest Dungeon. We'll see how far we push it, but right now you would be able to equip different candles into your lantern. Some of them may reveal invisible enemies or hidden secrets, or slowly heal you over time or whatnot. So, but yeah, lights is a big part of our game, and enemies can shoot through half walls. Yeah, we generate 2 different nav mesh. So nav mesh is navigation mesh that the AI uses to walk around. So there's the one walking and the one flying. So, like for example, if we got small imp demon that flies in the air, they can go over those low walls and whatnot, and it can also shoot above them. So, could be cool to see levels that changes over time in some way, or you can affect somehow, changing water level, moving platform, or maybe short mini optional challenge dungeons with high loot but very high risk. Yep, that's some good stuff. It's always one of the first things that I've asked when I enter productions, like, how can I make stuff move? How can I make a big block and make an elevator or something that spins? Or it's a bit more limited in pixel art, but I had an idea a while back of the walls keep moving, so as you progress forward, you go back. The walls are not at the same place. While they were off screen, I'm fiddling around and changing a bunch of stuff, so I will try to explore that. I don't have that feature at my fingertip for now. It would take a bit of time to configure. Maybe you guys would find it boring, but I'll take note of that, and maybe next time we'll have that feature going on. I want it. Short mini optional challenge dungeon. There's no such thing as yapping too much on a stream. Yeah, I suppose so. So, in a way, that should mean I'm doing well, I guess. I've watched my other stream and I was like, oh, dude, you gotta wake up a bit more and talk a bit louder and slower and clearer. So it's good for me to learn how to communicate better. So I really enjoy that. Maybe a dungeon where enemies can shoot at you from window cages, but to reach them with melee, you have to dodge their projectile and find your way into their cage where they shoot from. Yeah, that could be cool. I have doorways with bars, basically, like Diablo 1, and that they can shoot through. We could use that. Dungeons with death trap that you can weaponize against the enemy in a strategic way. Can I do this? We don't have traps, but I'm kind of thinking like, do I have something else that could do a similar trick? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of gameplay ingredients for the moment. I think for now, if we keep it simple, like something that we can do from A to Z and complete, we maybe preferable to think about shapes or architecture more than gameplay features. Oh, it sucks. It's a big part of developer disciplines. Okay, let's try to do something with what we have and not think about new features, but it's not easy. I totally understand. I can show you a bit of the stuff that we do have, though, so that might inspire some idea. We have the asset library in Unity, which is a tool that we've developed internally. So if I go into the GPI section, of course we got doors, locked doors, secret walls. Those are the bars that I was talking about that the enemy can shoot through. Well, the stations like the forge and the altar. I got my chests, some tombs. Can't open the tombs right now, but it's in the plan to be able to do it. Maybe there are some monsters that come out. Some pickups, stairs, few switches. Right now they just activate secret wall for the moment. They're very small, so you have to pay attention if you want to spot them, as you can see. You could spill oil on the ground and light it with a fire source. Would that be great? I like that a lot. Mention keys for doors. Do you have levers or button for doors? Well, I have this button, but keys and locks is definitely something that we can do tonight. I have this features functional. And before feral ghouls in coffins. Yeah, I mean that's classic Diablo ones. Definitely want to do that, especially now that we have zombies enemies. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I have 2 small destructibles. Basing a dungeon on that might get old, but it's always fun to just destroy a bunch of things. I've got some lore ingredients, so I mean we can put some parchment here and there, give hints to the player maybe, or tell a story. I have a bark trigger, so as the player enters it, there's gonna be a line of text above the character's head, so he can talk to himself. If you want to make a kind of a lore-based dungeon. You mentioned light plays a big role in the game. Can you explain any more? Could it be a factor in dungeon design ideas? Yes. If we do make that feature as complex as we imagine it, like if you see in here, I kind of have those little square here with those values. So with each dungeon, I'm varying the lighting, the amount of light, so it's really a challenge. When you can start to turn off the light, the enemies are able to hide a lot more in the environment. And I know at some point, somewhere around here, well, about halfway through the game, I'm gonna have some kind of toxic aura that you just can't go through if you don't have the right candle to burn, so it's gonna be kind of a gate. You have the right ingredient to find. I do have invisible enemies that you need the right candles to make them appear. Diablo 1 had something similar as well. What else? I want to have torches that we can light up. It shouldn't be super difficult, but in fact, I think I could script that. If you guys really like that idea, I think I would be able to do it. I'm not a programmer. I'm really a scripter level designer, so there's a few things that I can do by myself, but as soon as it gets a bit complicated, I need my friend Dan to help me program this. In Diablo 3, you'd receive a movement speed bonus for destroying a large amount of pots. Yeah, that's true. I forgot that. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It would be nice to have like special kind of destructible. Maybe not every destructible does that, but if you have vases that has coffee in it, maybe it's supercharge your character if you destroy a bunch of them. And in turn, that could allow you to walk faster through some dangerous zones. Who knows? Will there always be enough keys in each dungeon for each door? That's an interesting question. I'm still wondering about that. Right now, I'm not making the keys unique, so they're kind of generic. Every key can open any lock. And I'm thinking of allowing the player to craft some keys as well. Um, if you guys know a game, the series of game called Ease, the Otad Felgana, it's an old Japanese game on PS1, PS2, I think. They use keys as gates really much, and you go back into the village, buy a bunch. I think there was hundreds of locked door into that. So, Binding of Isaac is also a reference for that. So right now, that's what I'm going. I'm not going the Dark Souls way of like each key unique and can only open one door in the world. So, um, I think it's an interesting way to push the player to maybe revisit earlier floors before he had enough keys. So I think there might be something cool to do with that. A lot like how Enshrouded uses the shroud to keep you from going places until you level up your flame for progression. Yeah, I'm gonna check that. Take a little note. I've heard of that game. Craftable keys for special doors that are one-time use for optional hard bosses. Yeah, why not? There's nothing that prevents us from also having unique keys. Or maybe like Zelda, a boss key that's more unique or rarer. I was also thinking, like those old Resident Evil games, you have an altar, 3 medallion, fits into the altar, you gotta find all three and come back. And it's always a nice piece of art, like a mural or a fresque. So there's some, you can make some good art for that. Enemies that drain your light source. Yes, Sandy is always proposing that idea. Drain your mana, drain your light source. Hey, it's a challenge. Enemies that have different powers or abilities in the dark versus the light. Totally. There's actually a boss fight that we want to make around that idea. Maybe hordes of weaker enemies getting burnt up by a few light. That absolutely I can. That's a feature that I actually have right now. Kind of an AoE around the character once he's got that particular type of candle. And what will be cool though is that it's a different damage type. So if you use your sword, they take several hits to be defeated. But if you just approach them with the right candle, then they poof instantly disappear. So that could be really nice. Let's make sure I note everything. It's starting to get some good stuff. So if I forget any, just let me know. Crafting, rare keys, boss keys. Dungeon based on shooting from cages / windows. That applies boon or malus. Diablo 3 as a reference. Enemy that drain the light source. just copy paste. I'm shamelessly stating your ideas. But I guess that was the point of all this, no? Uh, some are almost like reminders, like ideas that we had months ago, but we take so many notes at some point they just get lost into a void of creativity. Okay, if you can grind more keys, then maybe have dungeon level that is very key heavy. A lot of closets, maybe an achievement for opening all of them. Yep, all that. Hide something cool, maybe less determined player will miss. Maybe an achievement. Yeah, but it's also it creates a feeling that there was something larger than what you experiment immediately. Just knowing that there's something hidden potentially behind any corners, it kind of fires up some brain cells that you don't get access to if you have a very linear game where nothing is hidden. I don't like those games most of the time. There has to be some secrets and some multi-path of some way. Maybe instead of closet, they will be living quarters, and in the bedrooms you can find lore notes. Absolutely. So let's do that. If you see a spot in the dungeon that we build where this could apply, highlight that. Hey, this should be a living quarter with lores, and sometime as we build the dungeon, okay, that room fits well for that idea that we had a while ago. So ideas keep the imagination's fire burning. Yep, isn't that the whole point of why we do that? It's the whole fun, isn't it? So anything is possible. Almost. Could be cool too if there were some enemies that were extra tough, but defeating them gave you oil or whatever other resource you need for the light. Could be visually a little distinct, like a glowing enemies, so you know to target them when your lantern is running low. Like an oily enemy almost. That could be very interesting. Uh, yeah. Something we think about, like how far to push the requirement to have some light. Like, is it like oxygen that you really need it to move forward, or it may be an idea for a few dungeon, maybe not for the whole game, but I'll take note. I like that. I'm enjoying this a lot. I hope you guys do. And that's why we have false walls for secrets. Man, if I see a waterfall, I expect to have a cavern behind it. I mean, I think that's basic. But I don't see that often. Run in the waterfall, hit the wall. It's like, come on. You gotta put a cavern behind or something. Cool. So, let's think about a global shape and just start carving some rooms. Um, back to this there. Is there any into these one that speaks to you or gives you ideas? I think we'll just make a dungeony dungeon. Not worry too much about the complex ideas for now. At least you'll be familiarized with the production process of making a dungeon, so that might give you ideas as well. So. I like the spoke and wheel design sensibility. What's that? I'm sorry, I'm French, and there's some expressions sometimes that Okay. So kind of a central hub with different branches. Yeah, that's something that's easy to reuse as well. We might have a little hub, maybe not six path coming out of it, but let's say three. We can have that. Imagine Resident Evil 2 police station, a central area that has many areas you can choose. Yeah, it had kind of a mansion type of architecture to some point. I know there was central part. You had that loop where the wolves come in through the windows. That zombie that slowly looks at you creepily. Spoken. Okay, okay. I never use that expression, but I'm gonna steal it. I steal a lot of stuff from you guys tonight. Okay, so we can design something that looks a little bit like a mansion, inspired by the police station of Resident Evil. It's gonna be a hub with different paths. Maybe a dungeon that is very cramped with narrow passages you can't see far ahead, so the enemies jump scare you often. That's always fun. Or maybe the room itself is large, but there are many pillars that are wide enough for the enemies to hide behind. Yeah, and that could be a cool spot to have those bars through which the enemies can shoot. I heard that idea is a bit above. Okay, so let's take note. So that community dungeon number one. Spoke and wheel. Cramped corridors. Use your room with bars. I'd be interested to see a dungeon where you encounter the same boss multiple times in different forms. Yeah, that's cool. It really creates a nemesis kind of relationship. Like, how did they say? I'll see you in hell. We meet again. He's got a different color slightly every time you meet him. There's something similar to that in the Hunter. So there are two dungeons so far with the Hunter in it. So he's a big monster that always knows your position into the dungeon, so he start to stalk you and chase after you. He's got a bit of a more complex AI, so with the 2.5 dimensions of the game, that would be so rough to manage. Which part? I think I know what you're talking about. Like, we can have cramped corridor, but we should avoid having many corridor next to each other because it's gonna be kind of hell to manage because we have to hide walls and display walls depending on where you are. So it's always better to leave yourself a bit of space between corridors and room just for that. Pillars room, yeah. But there are ways. With my practice, I found some ways to do things like that. So, alright, Community Dungeon number 1, Resident Evil 2 Police Station kind. You'll see why I take these notes because if you want to avoid the blank page syndrome when you do level design, you identify with the things that you know for sure are going to be there and you start with that. And then you continue to apply your creativity until all of those different parts touch each other. That's one way to do it. Let's jump into Unity. I'm gonna create a new folder. Call it CD instead. For Community Dungeon. I have my scene template. I'm gonna duplicate that, drag it over here. Alright. Okay. There's a carrot in my scene. Don't ask why. So basically, the scene template is super important, and we keep it updated all the time. So we don't have to start from scratch every time. So, all right. So I've got my grid, which I use to. You want your stuff to be on the grid at all time. It makes everything much easier. It follows the isometric proportion that we've chosen. So vertical is 75% of horizontal. So I think it's 48 pixel per 32. Don't quote me on that. Got some things that I want to activate when I start my game or deactivate. I got my pose volume that I can use to create different moods. I got my player spawn, so that's where the player will spawn. Underneath that, I have the one for the final game. I have one for debugging purposes. So if we build, I can spawn directly there in Unity, but in the build it will never use that position. It will always be the starting one. I have my global light, and we want to make this dungeon fairly dark, I think. The camera, which I don't fiddle with, it's just there. Nav mesh that I need to generate once the shape of my dungeon is made. The managers, which handles all the structural necessities for the game, the UI, the story, all the quest. Camera frame is useful when I want to have a quick view of what the camera will frame, basically once I press play. So without needing to press play, I can have a rough preview of what the player will see in the camera frame. I got the ground, which basically is that brown stuff. And my room template. So I've written in big capital letter, don't work into this, because it's a bad habit that I have. I work in my template, and no, you have to duplicate your template and work into that. So let's start with an intro and an outro. Push my outro at the other end. I think I'm gonna give this dungeon a basic northeast direction. So every time I expand my categories, I'm gonna need a staircase from which the player arrives. Let's take this one, since it's going northeast. Is the camera or field of view adjustable by the player in the game? Could be. I don't think it's gonna be the case. Some game does it, but I think in our case we will design space quite precisely so the player sees what we want him to see at such precise moment. If we allow him to zoom out, we may introduce some spoiler that we don't want to, so I don't think it's gonna be adjustable. If it was a 3D game, for sure you want full control over the field of view, because I got a huge ass TV, so I want to have a big field of view. But for a pixel art 2D game, I don't think we're gonna need to. One principle to keep while you level design is always keep your scene clean. So you don't want a bunch of stuff at the bottom of your hierarchy. You always want to put them into their respective groups. Typically I start with the floor. In an isometric top-down view game, the floor is something that you see a lot most of the time. So I have my tile map here. So it's basically my painter, my palette of what I use to paint the dungeons. This is the most common one that I use most of the time. All the other ones are pretty fancy, so I use them in specific situations. So we can just start painting. So I think it would be nice to have an introduction with the pretty wide dungeon intro, just so it kind of feels like you're facing a big building maybe, and there's a bit of exploration that you can do left and right before entering the place, or there's a side entry. I'm kind of starting to think about that dungeon like a Hitman type of map level where you infiltrate a big house. So I think I'm gonna put the little path here, a little path over here, clean it up a little bit. And I don't spend a lot of time in the rooms just yet. I just want to have my macro structure, and then I go into detail. So right away I will duplicate another room, place it here, call this a hall, expand it. No, I'm gonna have a door. A door, right? And I'm gonna start with my floor again. But since it's a hall, we can make it a little bit fancier. So let's pull out the red carpet. And then have the sides with those nice little tile. Alright. I think I'm gonna allow the player to enter by the side if he chooses to. That's gonna be in the intro. I'd have missed this at the start, but what platform is this game for? Mobile? It's for PC. At least. I would like it to be on multiple platforms, but that would depend on many things. If we get the publisher deal or whatever. But right now it's for Steam. Probably gonna go on Epic Game Store or GOG, and as well sell it on our own website for folks who doesn't want to have a platform like Steam. Let's add another door here. I feel like I don't want to show a door right away. I will put a bit of obstacle in between. That's a very important tie set for dungeon making, basically called the hidden walls. So think of it as the bottom of the walls. If I hide a wall in order to show the player, this is what will remain. And this is a dynamic rule set, so I only have to use this piece and it will automatically know what I'm trying to draw. So make a demonstration to make it clearer. So you see it chooses the pieces that go northeast. It will add a corner automatically, go north southeast. I can go at an angle like that as well. So as you can see, it picks the right pieces automatically. Saves a lot of time. So I cannot put a big staircase like a mansion, so I'm just gonna put a piece of wall just to hide the door behind it. Like that. And I'm gonna continue my ground. Like, I expect there's not gonna be any monsters yet. Just want to build the mood and set the tone for those first few areas. Let's push the door further. Let's check with my camera frame what the player will see as he walks towards. Alright. I'll make a few small rooms that will serve as buffers if the player uses different paths. So let's say okay. Place it at the right position so that everything stays on the grid. There, much better. And just to make it clear, I will draw a little bit of the hidden walls. Just so I remember the shape that I wanted to give it. Something like that, I think. Yep. Noob question, sorry. There's no noob question. We're all noobs. But is this some kind of isometric preset or workspace within Unity? More or less. It's been a while. How did we configure this? Because the default isometric view in Unity is a bit more squished vertically. I didn't like that, so I expanded it a little bit, but I think you can enter pretty much any values that you want. I have to check. Yeah, see, you can put the cell size that you want here, basically. So, and set it isometric Z as Y. Couldn't explain exactly why, but I just know it works for us with that setting. Let me know if that answers your question. Okay, so we don't have to build the dungeon from point A to point Z linearly. We can jump around. Something else that we knew we wanted was a big room. So I guess we're gonna have a little bit of exploring in cramped room and corridors, all of which will eventually concentrate towards that big room. So all right, gonna push it a bit further. There we are. Big. And this one was supposed to have a little hub spoken wheel. We'll just use a little spot for that. Create some wings. That should be big enough. I know I'm gonna need 3 doors. Put that in the big room. If you guys can develop your own tool a little bit, I highly advise to have a snap to grid tool. Mine is on spacebar, so whenever I drop something into my scene, I will hit spacebar and it will move on the grid. So I'm sure that it remains pixel perfect. You don't want a pixel going halfway through another pixel. It's it's not clean. So spacebar doesn't exist in default Unity. Maybe I should set it on the apps on the asset store. I don't know. I die and live by this tool. I mean, it's so important. So we have our little hub. I think I will add a little piece of furniture in the middle just to mark it. We'll find something to do with that, I'm sure. Gonna have more entries on here, I'm pretty sure. A little room to explore down here. It's like a dollhouse. I guess it's cool. Huh? My girlfriend loves to dress up the levels. Like I do the rough pass, and she will take the time to put every little piece of props and cracks in the floor and cobwebs in the corner of the walls. And I like to do it, but I'm nowhere near as patient as she is for this stuff. So it's the children's room. Gonna find a bunch of tools and toys to put in there. I got a few. Maybe they build stuff. We'll have to see. Could be fun. What else? We talked about some bars. I'll just put them in for now. Whoop, something's wrong. Yeah, sometimes, especially at the beginning of the project, you need to clean up your stuff a little bit sometimes. So my collision is not correct here. All right. And those are made to fit with another piece of architecture, which is a doorway. Like that. So very much like Diablo 1, you see. I'll make a group with this just so I don't have to recreate it from scratch every time. Like that. Another one of your best friend in Unity is Shift-Alt-N. We'll create a game object, children of your the object that you got selected. Yeah, you gotta have clean groups all the time in a scene, otherwise it gets chaotic very fast. So just gonna drop them all in that little game object. And now I gonna have my setup that I can reuse quickly. Alright. Let's make more rooms. Save. Can start making corridors. Which I will name core west 01. Next to the hall. And try to keep your rooms in the order of which the player is going to discover them, you know. Boom. Gonna have another one over here. Gonna add a door. And start drawing. That would be east 0 1. Expand this and start drawing the floor. Usually for my less important rooms I take floors that are a bit less fancy. 3 tiles is a nice width for a corridor. You don't really want to go smaller than that. A long corridor. Let's branch around here, make it turn. Something like that. And I will right away start designing the other side, just so that they can kind of converge nicely in the end. If I go too far with just one side, we'll have trouble designing the other side. Boom. Let's make this one turn a bit earlier. Make a side room here. I guess it start to feel like I will put an ambush there or something. Continue. I will start to build up a little bit the beginning of my scene because I feel like it. Hidden walls. I raise my walls last. I really start with my floor and the base of my walls, and something like that. So that's about right. Boom, boom. I know my doorway takes 4 squares, so I leave that empty for now. Alright, and then we're gonna populate the dungeon a bit more with a bunch of rooms on the west. Maybe a fancy room. Let's use that yellow floor. It's pretty nice. Makes a change. And the room next to it. Or we can do an L. That's fun too. Something like that. Then the place 2 doors like that. It's fun. It gives the player a bit of choice. Watching the process really puts me in the mood to do it yourself. Great. I guess that's part of the goal here, eh? It's not that complicated. Well, I really couldn't say either because I've been doing it for many years, so I know doing level design in Hellpoint was pretty challenging. A real Souls-like in full 3D with sci-fi setting. That was something. I didn't want to start with the big Souls-like game, but for some reason that's what we ended up doing. I think we managed to do a pretty good one. If you guys don't know, at my previous business called Cradle Games, we made a Souls-like action RPG game called Hellpoint. So if you guys want to check it out, it's doing pretty well. Got this. Save. Hellpoint did a lot of things very, very well in level design, including the shortcuts that you eventually come across to make getting around simpler. Yeah, I think that's the core of the idea of a level design like that. And my guess, because you find that level design in Dark Souls 1, but not so much in Dark Souls 2 or 3. And my theory is that Dark Souls 1 was practically completely entirely designed by Miyazaki. I think he done the level design for the whole game basically. That's what I did. And it must be very complicated to do interconnected level design like that when you have a big team of level designers. It's a lot more work to coordinate. So Dark Souls 2 and 3, they got chunkier. You can feel, I could kind of tell where one level designer started working and another one picked it up. So yeah, I don't know. For me, Dark Souls 3 didn't scratch that itch that Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1 did. Maybe I'll need to revisit it. Maybe I was getting a bit tired of Souls-like as well. Could be. Because I mean, that initial sense of discovery that you had in Dark Souls 1, it was a unique moment in your gaming life. You can't really recapture it, not as vividly as you did back then, you know. I don't have the patience for Souls-like that I had in 2008. You know. $28,000 hours into. You mean 280? It's one of my favorite ones, mostly because it was a lot of fun in co-op. Yeah. I've played and replayed Dark Souls 2 because of the co-op. Because I said, my friend Dan's comes over here every Saturday since we're 5 years old, so we need to find some co-op game to play together. Sniper Elite is very fun these days. 28,000? God damn, man, that's a lot of time. Wow. It's a very big game, so I can understand. I think I will complete that section because I want to show you guys kind of the complete process of doing a dungeon, and we can pick it up a bit later. I feel like making several little rooms here. Connect. And one more here. Any recent game recommendation? I keep forgetting what I'm playing. I'll open up Steam and we'll just see what's my library recent games. Honestly, I play quite a few games on the Epic Game Store. I have like hundreds of games that I got for free. They give one game every week, so I had fun with that Lord of the Ring game with the dwarves. Return to Moria, I think. That was fun. Very steep learning curve, but once you get into it, it sucks you in a bit, I think. I'm so looking forward to seeing it. Yeah, yeah. I wait too long before I press play. I'm gonna try to do that. I'm purchasing the Steam page for Dungeons of Atonement too, so. Uh, Ghost Recon Wildland, man. I'm all the time coming back to that game. It's just straight in the veins. Fun tactical shooting with friends. I'm playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I don't know. I also kind of needed a bit of relaxing games. And there's a free to play. Okay, don't laugh, alright? It's a girly game. It's called Infinity Nikki. But it's so pretty and everything is polished to the max. It kind of reminds me of Hogwarts Legacy. The level of polish is super high and there's basically no challenge, but the world is fun to explore and you craft clothing and yeah, I'm a bit ashamed to say it. It's a bit girly, but you can play that game before you go to sleep. So it puts me in a calm mood. You know, those are troubling days these times. So it's nice to have a little bit of a anti-stress experience. So Infinity Nikki is really something, and my girlfriend loves to watch me play. Okay, so I'm gonna raise the lower walls for all that. We'll have to head out, but thanks so much for hosting this. I recommend Stranded Alien Dawn, alright. Very polished, 3D room world. Cool, cool, I'll check it out. Hey, thanks for passing by, man. It was very fun to have you around, and if you like that, we'll do some more. Alright, see you, Goblin. Hey, here's my mod, man. Don't forget to like and follow and all that stuff. It's kind of a zen process. I like it a lot. It's so much simpler than doing level design in 3D. You only have to worry about two axes. And you draw and everything fits automatically. I'm sure game developers from the early 90s would have loved to have tools like that. Imagine placing all of those blocks by hand specifically. Had to Google the game you mentioned. I've actually seen ads for it. The Nikki one. It's an old brand. I think it's been around for quite some time. But it's a great girlfriend game. So if you want to get girls into video games, you could choose worse. Mm-hmm. Everything is polished. Now I kind of like that these days. I like polished experience. I like games that has a lot of love into them. 'Cause I think we see less and less of that these days. Developers kind of have a formula. They don't think about what they do as much as they did back then. They just follow the fashion and the wave and designed by numbers. I can feel that when I play games. When you're an old gamer like me and you've known the good old days, the golden age and whatnot, you're happy to play games by passionate developers like ourselves. And I have to find a woman to speak with regularly for that to happen. Well, there's more and more gamer girls these days, so it's a lot more possible than it was a decade ago, let's say. I've met my girlfriend online. Mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, but we've met on Team Fortress 2 at Ubisoft Quebec. Everybody was playing Team Fortress at some point. I feel you though, I grew up on Atari, Sega, NES, and SNES. Yeah, man, that was a special time to be a gamer for sure. It's kind of the same with music and movies as well. I mean, we didn't realize it at the time how many classic we were being given. It was normal, but now it's like if you see what's the year? The year Xbox 360 got announced or something, there was a crazy amount of legendary games that got out at that period. Getting close to be able to press play with something interesting. It's not totally gone, but the spirit the development used to have really isn't there anymore. Well, it's good to see good devs like you guys. Well, thank you so much. We tried to keep the torch lit. But there are a lot of old devs like us still around. They just kind of make their own things now. I mean, if you check every big studio, there is another studio that was created recently with all the old guys. I don't remember their name by heart, but like CD Projekt Red, all the initial devs from Witcher, they got out and they created their own studio. Assassin's Creed did the same thing. I'm pretty sure BioWare had a similar event. So you just have to look for them. They are now all doing startup studio like us. So. I'm gonna put the bottom of my doors because I have to place each one of them by hand, just so it looked nicer. Props. Boom. Boom. Where else? These ones. I'm just gonna place them quickly and clean up later because I'm gonna have stuff accumulating at the bottom of my hierarchy, which is a big no-no with my book, but just so we can press play because we have to play this eventually. We just can't stay in the editor forever. And just for fun, I'm gonna place just a few lights. Especially if we keep the environment very dark, we can just start playing with light and thinking about lights. It's always something to keep in mind as you design. I don't place a lot of them because the player has its own lantern, so you want to make sure that it remains pertinent. You see, if I activate the lighting, it gets very dark very quickly. Usually you want to place lights near entries as a kind of a system to tell your player that, you know, their access point here and there. And just for fun as well, we can put a few enemies. So in my asset library, I have a folder dedicated to enemy spawn points. Normally, we will start the design by, you know, choosing a selection of enemies that we want to use. So not all dungeon floors all have the same enemies. It's a Resident Evil type of map, so put some zombie, some imps. Those are fireball shooting enemies. Gonna put a stalker guarding those doors. Stalker are much tougher. Gonna put the mage. I'm really speedrunning this. Gonna make this a stalker filled corridor, so it's gonna be a more difficult path to choose from. Gonna put some imps. Fireball shooting imps are fun to put in dead ends. A big bullhead in that big room. Let's put some ghosts in here. I don't worry too much about enemy placement and types of enemies because, as you see, it's very fast to do, so it will change. I will adapt it eventually. I just want to have some action. You can feel the mood. Awesome. Yeah. You want to reach a state where you get to feel the immersion for a level fairly quickly. What can we place in that giant room? So we know we want to have kind of bars like that. I'm not gonna worry about that for now. I'm just gonna put a bunch of fireball shooting enemies. I think that was the idea at the beginning. And zombies. I often put them into little groups as if they're all talking by the water cooler or something. I don't know, I find that fun. Alright. Gonna put a few more lights just so it's not super boring visually. Hello? What? Alright. I'm gonna put a lore at the beginning for fun. What message could we put there? What? What's wrong with you? Come on. Wow. Welcome to hell. Alright, enough waiting around. Oh, my spawn point has to be correctly placed, of course. In front of the staircase. Save that. And gentlemen, we have a dungeon. At least it started. And then maximize that screen. Alright. Welcome to hell. I think I'm gonna put more space before presenting the facade of that police station, quote unquote. My little side path here. I think this is going to be a cliffside to clearly separate the intro from the rest of the dungeon. Oh, I have no nav mesh. I didn't generate the nav mesh, so the enemies won't walk. Oh. Unless I activate them. Today Sandy did the animation attack for upward direction. Oh, at least a few of them. Maybe I'm not up to date. Feels even as smooth. Oh, that's high praise. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're putting a lot of polish on the parry because in our game it's basically the only defense mechanism that you have. So yeah, I have to update my data because the guys have been working and I don't have their latest work. Like right now, the problem with that little imp is that you see him facing my way, but in reality, it's facing the other way. Yeah, you see his vision cone, so you know, looks can be deceiving, but that has been fixed tonight, so if I update my data, it should all be good. Come on over, you big brute. Check out the death animation on this one, it's my favorite. She makes the flesh melt from his face. And... come on, die. Ouch! Hurts like a truck though. Come on. Yeah, it sucks because there's no nav mesh. Look at that. Yeah, yes, it's really gore. I like it. Reinforced grip. I've just collected that, so once I go to a forge, I will be able to install it on my sword. Does the parry system work on magic as well then? I think so, because by default yes, but if it doesn't, we will need to come up with a feedback system that clearly signals that it's useless to parry. But I feel like it's gonna be the type of game where everything can be parried if you got the right timing. The philosophy behind that is that you're playing a 50 years old monk, so he's not the nimble ninja that dodges around and slides around freely, so but he's skillful and he's tough. He's a big brute, so he's able to defend effectively and parry. Slowly but surely, his skills, he starts to remember the skills from his youth. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make that room even bigger. get killed. Damn. That melting really feels good, doesn't it? That's what's fun with pixel art. That's the type of thing that if you want to do that in 3D, it's gonna be a lot of work. Very difficult, but in pixel art, sky's the limit. For every death of every monster, we try to make it interesting. Especially boss fights. Ah! Suck at my own game, which is a good sign because my target audience is much better than I am. My skill are getting rusty. But hey, we have a dungeon. It's the first playable. I already see what kind of modification I'm gonna wanna do. So a few rooms are gonna get larger. Need to get some sleep, but thanks for streaming. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna call it a night as well. It's been almost 2 hours. But I hope you've enjoyed this little experiment. I think we'll leave it at that, and we can maybe pick it up. I'm thinking maybe doing maybe 3 streams a week. I don't think I have enough content to do it every day. Maybe I do. We'll see. But yeah, I think next stream is going to be Wednesday. If that works for you guys. What you need to do before your workday is done is push your data. So we're using GitHub as a server so everybody can work together. Any day works for you? Cool, man. So we're gonna remain closed then. Push that. This little software is great because it doesn't allow me to push data on the server unless I'm up to date and I get all the data from the other guys in the team. So if I got a problem on my station, I cannot push it on the servers, which would make it a problem for everybody else. So all is good. It's been pushed on the server. Next time we're gonna make some little size adjustment, put some checkpoints in there, start adding props and adding chests and whatnot. So I think that's good for now. I would carry on for hours. I think my brain is getting a bit mushy. I think you can hear it on my French accent. The more tired I am, the stronger my accents get, I think. In any case, I think it's been a really cool experimentation. I hope you guys will join me for the next episode. We're going to continue that dungeon and you're going to see the next steps in order to make a final product. But thank you all for being there, the 2 remaining viewers. And we'll see you guys next time, I hope. It's been a pleasure. I think this stream was much better than the last one. Alright guys, I made him off. Thank you so much again, and we'll keep in touch.